In March of 2022, we launched our HCM. We previously had an analytics solution that was sunset in favor of the reporting capabilities that came with our HCM. Very quickly realized that that was not enough, and that we were tapping out those capabilities. So in 2023, our senior leadership asked us to do some research and run an RFP. So we started with 11 companies. We brought that down, shortlisted to 5. Then we, during our RFP, invited 3 to come and demo. We, of course, wanted the unified platform. We, of course, wanted the configurable real-time insights. But that last bullet about true collaboration, right? Invest time upfront to do the hard work around data. That's the key. What I want to talk about a little bit is this concept of going slow to go fast. One model, thankfully, delivered all of the things they promised in their RFP process, which was fantastic. They also were a partner, not just a vendor. And what I mean is during the process, they never said something like, that's not my problem, or that's on you, or that's outside of our scope, right? They really partnered with us on a lot of things. And truth be told, I can't say that about every single, vendor or partner in our ecosystem. So it really made a difference. And then internally, there was also a sense of this tool, this platform is not a magic pill, right? A lot of times when we walk around these booths, we're looking for something that will solve all of our problems. You just click a button and then boom, you have all of the insights or you have everything fixed. Not how it works. The RFP process was quite long, but what we did as Paramount is we actually brought in all of the folks from privacy, all the folks from legal, from data strategy, from tech, all of the different parts of our business up front. Because how many times do you get to the end of a process, you go and talk with your legal team, and they say, no, you can't do it because you haven't reviewed this with Works Council in Germany. You haven't reviewed this with our UK privacy team, like all of these reasons. But they want to say yes to things as well. So what we did is by bringing them on board in the RFP process, we actually co-opted them into the process of picking a tool with us, which meant by the end, everything was greenlit. We didn't have to wait. So we were actually able to go slow initially to go fast later. We launched one model on May 20 of 2024 at 10 a.m. Why do I know the time and the exact date that we launched one model? Well, that's the reason why I remember it. So a few hours before our one model go live was a different kind of go live. My son arrived 2 weeks ahead of schedule. So we had this brilliant plan. We're going to launch one model on Monday, have 2 weeks of hypercare, and then kiddo was going to arrive after that. He totally threw a wrench in the works. Perfectly. But because we had done all of that work up front, where we had brought in all the people we needed to bring in up front, we had our communications plan in place, our change management, the data was vetted, legal was on board, our CHRO was open, everyone was ready. I was able to open up my laptop, hit send on the email I had already drafted, close my laptop, and get back to what was important, my family. And one model is just like that. It lets you get out of the weeds of the data and focus on what's important. If you go by the one model booth, one of the things written at the top, it says that leaders aren't asking for dashboards. They're asking for answers. And that's about what's important, right? It's not just about the dashboards and the data that you have. Is it really driving decisions? So now we actually have real-time access to data that allows us to make decisions. About 2 months ago, I was in a meeting with a lot of senior leaders, and I felt like there was a bit of analysis paralysis. Everyone was just circling drain on something. And I was actually able to pull up some data real time and share with those leaders and say, hey, look, this is what it looks like. Let's not let perfect get in the way of great. This is enough to make a decision right here in this moment. And it broke that analysis paralysis. So our chief technology officer, our head of InfoSec, our CHRO, all the folks who were in that call, they were actually able to move forward with the decision right then and there. I mean, that's an example of how it was important to, my own team, the analytics. It's also helpful for our HR leadership, right? Again, focusing on what's important. Earlier this year, we had the fires in LA. You probably had a lot of colleagues who were impacted by it in the audience. We had colleagues at Paramount. My brother lives in that area, so he had to relocate. So it was a very personal, deep issue. And we actually had that data real time, ready to go. We were able to identify, okay, who's there? Who needs the right communications plan? Our benefits team had spun up an employee support fund as well. So how do we get that information to the right people who might be impacted? All of that was available immediately. For things like that, times of crisis, you can't wait 2 weeks or 2 months. You have to have it right down there. And that's what also helped build trust in that data. That, hey, we were actually able to solve problems in real time and help our employees. Like, these are their lives and livelihoods that we're talking about. So if we can transform that data, get it to a point where it's usable, it's also helpful to our HR leadership as well. I think that when we think about this too, we had another scenario recently where we launched our return to office policy. And with that, about a month ago, we had launched the AI integration, the AI augmentation for commute time and distance that one model has with MapQuest. What that was able to do was also allow our CHRO to layer in additional data in terms of coming up with our policies and figuring out how we're going to roll these out, how we're going to communicate with people, how we're going to communicate with the real estate as they're doing their planning. And we actually found some, great insights already initially where we looked at New York versus LA, the two first cities that were played in the return to office policy for. And we found out that the behavior locally was very different. With this commute time augmentation, we identified that as you go up in your level in California, in LA, your commute time gets shorter. Most executives live closer to Hollywood. In New York, it's the exact opposite. The higher up you get in your career, you're not necessarily splitting an apartment in Manhattan or somewhere with anyone. You're moving out to Westchester or Connecticut or New Jersey, or you're moved Long Island, moving to the suburbs, right? So there are these two very distinct ways of operating, right? Most people in LA drive cars. Most people in New York take public transport. I hope no one's driving into our office in Times Square because that's insanity. But we were able to identify these things because we had access to this data, and now we're able to shift how we're implementing certain things in order to be there for our employees. One thing that I'll add to this whole process of go slow to go fast is that one model actually helped us identify where we had certain gaps in our data. We had just launched the new HCM, right, in 2022, and we had launched this RFP to find an analytics platform in 2023. So we were still coming to terms with our data. And one of the things we realized as we were going through that process is one example where we identified what's going on with so many people getting demoted all of a sudden when we were bringing data into our platform. Like, let's dig into that a little bit more. What we actually realized is it was a process issue, and that we worked with our HR operations team on that. What was happening is someone was joining the company. Let's say they were being entered at director level. And then a few months later, someone realized that, hey, that's actually not the right level for them. They should have been coded as manager instead. So instead of going back to the original hire record and changing that hire record to say manager, they were entering a new row, which when the data flowed in, it's like, okay, in 3 months, this person was demoted from director to manager. So we were getting all these corrections of people getting demoted. Our performance management team was like, what's going on? What's the deal all of a sudden? You guys are launching this new analytics platform, people getting demoted left, right, and center. And we actually realized that, it was a data integrity issue. And we had to go back and do some training with our HR ops team. So the process of actually going slow to go fast, we were able to identify scenarios where there was a mismatch in the data, or there was something that was causing the data to be wrong because of a process issue. And we were able to correct those on the fly. So by the time it came to that double go live date of one model and my son, we actually had all of the data, or most of the data, correct and in the right way. And the analytics were making sense as well. Speaking of customer success, I was sent this by my boss, who got this from our head of performance management. So I'm going to read it out, but it's an actual message that he got, that he sent to me. Hi, I have a happy little story that I thought you might enjoy. I needed a report showing new hires by month for 2024 US versus international compared to 2022 and 2023. Becca, on her team, started working with HR ops to build it. While they were going back and forth, I happened to be on a call with Tanmay and asked him about it. He showed us that the exact report already exists in one model. It's fully automated and visual, slick as can be. This saved a lot of people time and energy. Gotta love efficiencies. So we're already starting to see a lot of success coming out of these scenarios. My boss actually, on the example of return to office, sent me a request on Friday, this past Friday, at 10:05 a.m. and he says everything important happens around 10 a.m. It seems like
On Friday.
yeah. So he sent me this message and he said, Kay, as part of this return to office process, our CHRO, who started a few weeks ago, wants an additional layer of data. He wants us to identify who are the people in New York who have more than a 2-hour one-way commute. So the people who are based in New York, but for all intents and purposes, you might think of them as actually remote, just given the distance of their commute. He says, if someone could have this to be by Monday, that would be great. And I replied to him, sure, give me a minute. And he replies back with a smiley face and says, I'll give you a whole day. And 8 minutes later, I had that analysis over to him with the decision that we needed to make based on that data. Not just the raw information, but here's how to interpret it, and here's how we should think about it. I mean, especially if you get a request on Friday asking for it by Monday, there's an implication that you're doing work over the weekend, right? But this allows you to get things done in real time, right? And again, focus on what's important, right? You don't want to spend all of your days in the weeds. So, we've given some examples for how it benefits my team, how it benefits our HR leadership. It also benefits our business. There's a saying I really like, and it's that business is like tennis. Those who serve well win. And one model allows you to do that, right? Being able to serve our business better means that we have a real competitive advantage in the marketplace. We've been able to use one model when we've been thinking about location strategies. Well, how do we compete with other companies for talent? Perhaps go into locations where we know we need certain skills. Other people are not looking in those areas for their skills. So how do we compete against other people in that way? So we've been able to use it for our business as well. I think one of the things that I will want to leave you with as Richard wraps up, is that this concept of going slow to go fast, it takes time, right? There's no magic pill. It took us 6 months to get our core data cleaned, mapped, and in place. It was because we had already done a bunch of work upfront as well, but it also took a lot of diligence on our part, on one modest part, to make sure that we could map everything, test everything, validate everything, do it properly, right? To get all the change management processes in place, get all the communications in place. This upcoming Monday, we're actually launching this to our international business partners as well. So today we've been primarily focused domestically in the US, but we're launching it to probably about 80 international business partners across 20 different countries. So we've got a lot of expansion of it. And then every subsequent iteration, launching compensation and launching performance management, takes about another, 4 months, 4 or 5 months each time, depending on the complexity of the data. But at the end, you end up with this amazing tool that you can use to, again, focus on what's important. But it takes a lot of buy-in up front, right? Bring people into that process right at the beginning. Have all your allies with you. Co-opt people into the process. I think that's one of the key reasons why it worked. Don't be afraid to invest that time up front and tell people about it, right? This is going to take some time. But at the end, I promise you, you're going to be better for it. We just went through a huge, very public merger recently. Paramount and Skydance, merged. And now our company has been able to bring in the Skydance data within this past month. It's been amazing having that because we did all of the work up front to get our data to a point where we could bring in additional data sets really easily. We are democratizing it. We've actually launched it to several hundred HR business partners, folks across our performance management team. Right now it's within HR, but we do have a plan to pitch to our new CHRO. Can we actually give certain elements of this to the business as well? So those individuals who are particularly, data savvy can also take action. What we're trying to do as well, and you can learn about the AI assistant and all sorts of other things where you can just type in your natural language and it'll give you, answers. But what we're trying to do is, one, elevate the level of confidence and trust in data across the HR community, but also at the same time let people know that they're not alone, right? They can always come to my team and our broader HR ops and analytics team for help. So you're not in it alone, just like we're not in it alone. We have one model. But yes, certainly. And there are actually a lot of HR business partners who now we've created a separate super user security profile for that because they love using it. They love building things themselves. And it means that we now have champions within those teams using it.